start with Martha. Martha, if you could, what would you give in terms of advice for executive careers and how they're typically impacted by the recession rather? How is that from your perspective? Can you explain a little bit?
Sure. Thank you for that question, Lynn. You know, I think the sort of gut reaction to a recession or economic headwinds or whatever we're in the middle of here is to think hiring freezes, I'll never get another job, don't bother looking right now. But I actually think that it's very counterintuitive it's a very counterintuitive reaction. Executive search likes change. Executive search likes it when things are happening, when things are changing. Sure, you're going to have some hiring freezes, maybe at director levels, manager levels. Certainly some of our clients are telling us that. But what we're talking about here is executive search at an executive level. So, what happens during a changing economic climate? Often the board decides that their CEO is not the right person for this next economic period. And so they swap that person out, and then that person needs to build a new team. Maybe we decide as a business to divest an underperforming business unit, and this is the time to do it, and it's time to acquire in a new space that this economic period makes financially viable. So what executive search doesn't like is the status quo when nothing's changing, because we don't need new skill sets. We don't need new executives. So I find that recessions are good for executive search. It doesn't mean we don't have some clients we expected to do a lot of business with calling things off, but then new clients come around. So, I guess a couple of things. One is, advice I would give to candidates is, one, look around your current company and decide whether you believe the leadership is prepared for economic headwinds and whether or not this is the right place for you. Do not assume that there is an opportunity in this kind of a market, because there's a lot of opportunity. I'll tell you from our perspective, we set very aggressive growth goals this year based on a very strong year last year, and we're hitting those goals squarely. So as of right now, we're not seeing any negative impact from this economic period we're in. I was in an AESC roundtable recently with other executive search firm CEOs, and we were all saying our biggest problem is capacity on delivering all of the work that's coming in. So what executive search likes is frothiness, activity, change, action. And that's what we've got here. So I'm not experiencing any slowdown in business. And the advice I would give is decide what it is you want to do and go pursue that executive career. And maybe you have to do more outreach for the number of opportunities given this economic period. But I believe executive opportunity is alive and well in this market, whether it's a recession or not.
Martha, really great advice. I took notes here. So a lot of gems in that advice that you just gave. Andrew, a question for you. How important would you say is it for executives to begin proactively recession-proofing their career? So doing that in advance.
I think thank you. I think to look at this particular question, I have a number of perspectives. Just to comment on what Martha was saying, it's not that there are no jobs available today because people are finding a tight situation. On the contrary, the jobs are all there. The only thing is they're different, and the people they require are different to the people that currently have in those jobs or had in those jobs. So, every company is at a different stage of progress in their development. And if you were looking to continue to fit in and begin to recession-proof what you're doing, ideally, you'll have started this about 20 years ago. Now, assuming you have not done that, and of course, none of us do so because we're all engaged 24 hours a day in our current jobs, we rarely get a chance to look ahead and look out. I think the first thing I would be doing today, whether I'm in current employment or seeking employment, is to really make recession-proofing my life and my career a work activity. In other words, allocating a certain time every day when all I'm doing is learning about the world, learning what is changing, and developing some of those skills on my own or with some help. Now, to get very specific, if you've not yet taken an opportunity to look at any forms of AI or taking a look at what ChatGPT can do for you or for your resume, you're too late. This is exactly what you should be doing, not because you want to change your resume and use ChatGPT to make your life easier, but you want to understand what's happening in the world. So staying aware of everything that's going on in the world around you and learning how to cope with that now is the most critical thing you can do to ensure that your career is recession-proof. In other words, maintaining your skill base, which is such a basic statement, but really understanding how to position yourself for the future rather than for yesterday. That's what I'd be doing now.
Highly strategic, Andrew, and also inspirational. The idea of lifelong learning and making recession-proofing a passion. Thank you for that. So let's bring in some comments from Lindsay and Alan. Lindsay, what does the current executive job market look like, and any impact or trends that you're currently noticing, if you could share with us?
Sure. Thanks, Lynn. I think, look, I agree a lot with what Andrew and Martha have said. We're coming off of two of the best years, I'd say, in executive search, right? With a very growth, every area was in growth mode, right? Every industry, we couldn't keep up with the pace. So I think why we're seeing pockets of layoffs and hiring freezes within certain industries, I would say tech, for an example, that I work in, there are certain areas that we're seeing that, but we're still seeing a ton of opportunity, especially at the executive level. So I think while the tech industry has indeed, shifted into a time of some of those layoffs and hiring freezes, for the companies that are still looking for, in the long term, they're really making those strategic hires, and where do they need to make those changes? Is it, a CEO? Is it a marketing executive? Is it a customer success executive? And I think one of the trends we're seeing is executives being more open, maybe this year versus the last couple of years, because their equity may be underwater, or their company is going through a little uncertainty, and so people are more apt to, I think, pick up the phone, have conversations, etc. So I think it's an interesting time of maybe not what it was in the past 2 years, but still for those companies that are looking for the long term, there is a lot more opportunity, I think, with those executives that may have been more tied in.
Thank you, Lindsay. And Alan, from across the pond, I'm here in New York, so you're across my pond. What's your perspective on?
I don't know if it might be a bit different in Europe, but we also, like Lindsay said, we had the best year ever last year, but the trends continue strongly since 1st of January. We were thinking that it could stop, it would be a bad year. There were a lot of negative impact coming, and we don't see that yet. I've started six assignments in 1.5 months. This is quite exceptional, and it's very heavy. And in these assignments, there are twice the number of searches are expansion, more than the replacement searches. So it's important that companies continue to invest. For the moment, as we say, it can stop, and that's why it's important to be ready for more difficult moments. But as Martha said rightly, some companies lay off a lot of people, but then they need at top level to recruit 1 or 2 more, and that's where we work. So it's not volume, it's quality. What we're seeing as trends is I mean, for the moment, mostly GMs and CEOs that we need to do, or also a lot of more and more board positions. And there are some CEOs that are just retired and that are looking for a lot of board positions.
Thank you, Helen. I did not mention earlier and I know you realize that we would love to hear from you, audience. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I see that some of you have, and I actually want to call out one of them. There's a question, and I'll give this to you, Lindsay, because it's really in your section. At the executive level, what is the % of remote roles, and what is the trend on remote executive roles?
Sure. Look, I think it's a hot topic, especially in the tech industry, and I work in that area. So I think it really depends on the company. I mean, we are seeing most of our clients, I'd say the majority, that are very open for remote executives, provided they're committed to being at headquarters when needed for the right meetings, et cetera. But location is very minimal requirements of relocating, et cetera. It's just not the market right now. People have shown over the past 2 years that they can be successful working remotely. I do think, head of HR, roles like that may be different, but where I focus more in the marketing and kind of customer success and GM type, we are, we're seeing most of our clients being open to remote and along with the executive needing to be able to commit to travel as needed. You're on mute, Lynn.
Let's move along. So when we talk about skills and experience, Martha, what skills and experience or even capabilities would be most in demand, do you think, in 2023? Things like adaptability, technical skills, communication, continuous learning, some examples.
Sure. I mean, I would say number one is transformation. And it was interesting, Lindsay, you're in the tech sector. I'm in the technology function within every sector, essentially. And for every layoff that happens at Microsoft, it is a boon to one of my legacy clients looking to recreate as a digital business. So, for me, what we're looking for is transformation. We want to see somebody take something that's been old, that's been working great, but now, given the fact that we are in the world of AI and digital and data and all of that, what got us here won't get us there. So the ability to transform is to me, the top skill set. But what does that even mean? Very often it's transforming from business model. We used to provide this product, and now we're providing data as a service about our customers' use of that product. So that's business model transformation. We're seeing a great need for that. We're also seeing that ability to drive cultural change. We're working with a very large pharmacy/retail business that is trying to change to become a platform business. Well, how you sell, how you deliver, who you hire, everything changes. It's an entirely wholesale cultural transformation. So the ability to drive cultural change is a critical skill set. In addition, people, the language of the board used to be finance. Today, the language of the board is increasingly data, as well as information security, digital transformation. So digital, data, AI, cultural change, everything, my daughter, who is 22, will not ever pick up the phone ever to call anybody about anything. And if you want to sell anything to my daughter, which you do because she's a big spender, the problem is it's my money she's spending, but that's a different topic. You need to engage with her digitally. So wholesale transformation, that's cultural change, it's digital change, but also back to the question posed to Lindsay, workforce strategy. Are we just going to kind of take our in-person culture and do it digitally? We can't do that. We have to create a new employee engagement culture, knowing that the likelihood that we go back to a full-on in-person work environment, I believe it's zero. I think there's a 0% chance that we revert. And I think the companies saying we're all going to be in person, I think those companies are going to lose on talent. At the same time saying, oh, we'll just be remote, but we won't change the way we engage with our employees. That's not going to work either. So and defining this new work environment is a team sport. It isn't just the CEO. It isn't just the CHRO. So the ability to define an engaged employee environment in this new hybrid workspace that we're in, that's going to be a very important skill set for 2023.